Hey Kenra, Low Wheeler here with another amazing tutorial for you. Today we created a gorgeous Mocha balayage effect from a solid level 1, and it's so good and so minimal. Let's jump right in. We have Priya's hair all sectioned up. We're gonna start in the front, and the main areas that I wanna focus on initially are definitely gonna be her money piece, right over her ear, and then tie in a little bit at the nape of the neck. As we can see, she has beautiful full hair, and it is a level 1. So we're going to use a foil technique to break through her base color, and we're going to use 30 volume plus glue powder lightener to start the process. So let's dive into that. I don't like to get lost in the weeds with a big transformation by overthinking the sectioning. I look at what areas are going to be needed to make a big impact in the overall look. So that's why I like to start in the front and then include the back in our money piece, meaning the back nape. So we're gonna start right over the ear. I'm gonna do a light tease, and then we're gonna just lay panel after panel right around the hairline. I'm gonna apply a generous amount of lightener through the mids, picking up the tips of the hair, and then lightly feathering into the tease. And then I'm gonna take another foil and then close up the packet. And then moving really quickly right in the hairline in her front fringe. She has a little bit of a layer, so I'm gonna go ahead and include that into this money piece. And everything that you see me do on one side, I'm gonna quickly apply to the other side. We want to keep her natural base intact. So when I'm picking up my sectioning, I just really want to make sure that there's some connection through the ends of all her layers. If I was to really be hyper-focused on creating fine little sections from root to end, this application could take hours and hours and hours. And I would lose my vision of how I can connect one layer to the next layer. When we look at her hair as a whole, it has a lot of beautiful bouncy layers, and she has so much density, and that would just take like years off both of our lives to get in there with like a back-to-back full foil. So I'm not going to go about her application like that. I'm just going to have large diagonal sections and then pull out what hair would naturally show in the design, and then we start there. And we have her first half of her money piece in 4 foils. If I was overly focused on her sectioning, this could easily be like 20 foils on this one side. So moving into the other side, doing a nice light tease is just gonna help us break up the perimeter and help us achieve a really soft blend. I've mixed my blue powder 2 to 1. It has like a nice flow. It's not too thick. When you're working on long hair, you want to be able to glide that lightener. You don't want it to be too thick. So we're working off of a 2 to 1 mixing ratio. When you're lifting through multiple levels, starting from level 1 or 2, you want to make sure in your consultation that your clients know what to expect, because it's a journey when you're lifting through black hair. You want them to understand like there's gonna be warmth in the hair. You're gonna want to line them up for 4 to 6 sessions to help them keep a nice balanced neutral outcome. And you want them to know that it's not about getting the lightest, brightest blonde, it's about maintaining the health in the hair. So usually in the salon, I'll have my clients come in 3 to 4 hour sessions, and then we'll pick 1 to 2 goals versus like a 7 hour, 8 hour, 9 hour transformation where we're forcing the hair into a multi-dimensional outcome. I always think it's better to have a flawless partial than a sloppy transformation. So make sure that you're consultating and doing your due diligence to help your clients understand the parameters of which you work and also the limitations of their hair relative to an average hair appointment. Here I expect us to have some nice pops and also some warmth in the hair as we build her color through the body of her density. So when you have clients with super dark hair, you also want to consider how much hair they have. It's a percentage game. If you look at her hair as 100%, we're probably going to cover 30% of her hair in its entirety. This is going to give your client perspective of like how many sessions that they will need. It's unrealistic to think that your client's going to get 100% of their hair touched in one classic appointment and 100% of their goals achieved in one appointment. So this is going to empower you to just like slow down and be realistic with your clients, not only in what to have them expect in the hair, what to have them expect from you, and then also have a price point that aligns with all of those talking points. And of course, are they able to maintain it? So like I never have a client sit down for a big color correction if they can't prioritize the maintenance of what it'll entail. So even with lived-in looks, it's important to understand that your client will need to come in 4 to 6 times a year to maintain and keep their hair balanced and healthy. Okay, so now we have the front of her hair outlined. We're in a good flow already because I know no matter what we're doing to the rest of her hair, we'll have some nice, brighter dimensional pieces right around her face. We have like a little test strand that we did for 10 minutes to just see how well her hair is able to handle the lightener. And you can see it's kind of medium, but this is the next phase of our money piece area because we know whatever she's going to throw in front of her shoulders is going to live down here in the design. So we're just going to section this up to a couple big teasy panels and then move to the sides. These are pretty large pieces, so I don't expect the lift to be very high. The thinner the section is in a foil, the more lift that you're going to get. So I'm actually not worried about this because I don't need her to be super blonde all throughout her hair, but I am going to start working on bumping her base throughout the tips and getting more of like a caramely tone. That way it starts us in the right direction of having like a really sun-kissed, natural kind of mocha balayage effect. If we were trying to go for a really like ashy tone, I would definitely encourage you to go for thinner slices in a more back-to-back placement. Here we're working with the natural warmth in her hair and we want that really glowy, bronzy, sun-kissed balayage aesthetic. So we're gonna go ahead and work through the density and focus on creating balance in colors throughout the body and the thickness of her hair versus focusing just on levels of lift. So moving through to her sides, I always think that her sides, or the sides of any color transformation, are more relevant than just the back. The back, my goal will be to blend the tones together and marry the tones and connect the color placement through the back. I think the front obviously is the first priority, then the sides. Looking at her hair, she has some layers, so what I want to avoid is just picking up a short section and then not following through with connecting it through to the ends. So because of this, we're gonna go through and have diagonal sections that help me to see the layers as I work. So here I'm connecting a short layer to a medium layer to her length. So instead of getting in here on a horizontal, this would easily take me like 30 minutes to foil this. Because I want to create the highest impact possible, I'm going to turn 20 foils into 4 by just teasing and staying away from the root. You know what? I might even take this more balayage with how I lay the product on. We don't want to struggle through anything. So whatever you start with, if you decide to pivot, there is no hair color police standing over your shoulder. And for these big sections and to move quickly and confidently through her hair color, I'm finding it easier to paint on, and then we'll close this right up into a foil. In the salon, I love working with co-stylists. So anytime I'm doing a bigger transformation, I'll call on my co-stylist to help me work through as quickly as I can, because I want my chemicals to do the work for me. So being quick to pick my placement and being quick to lay the color on is going to help me just get the best results I can in terms of lift. So looking at where our top side section sits, there's just a couple little wisps of layers remaining. So as long as I tie those into the section underneath, it will flow. I really want to come in a little bit higher on this top section and create a veil here. So this whole section will have 3 parts to it. A layer connecting to the money piece, a veil that will create a ribboned effect, and then the tip out to connect the ombre that we're creating. So we're gonna start with this big section here, and I'm gonna tease it, over direct it forward, and we're gonna focus in here. This might even, depending on the density of your client, need to be 2 pieces. And I can feel it out. It might be the best to take it from 1 to 2 and then include this in a neighboring section. So that's what we'll do. So I'm just saturating through this hair because I want it to bump the base color and just really just be a thorough, nice consistency throughout the whole section. Okay, so now we're at the very top. This section is gonna be a really classic panel, and then I want this to be one of the last pieces that we end up rinsing, because this might be the difference between having a 3rd dimensional tone or not. So we're gonna keep an eye on this, and I'm just going to lay this into the design. Just as the money piece is meant to be a lighter pop, this piece on the crown on both sides will try to drive that lift as much as we can, so we have a 3rd dimensional color. And I'm just feathering it up into the roots. We don't need it to be like all diffused from the very root to the end. So again, we're just going to softly feather. You can close that up, Norma. She's alive still. Okay, so now it's our time to really evaluate what's important to the design from the back. When looking at the back of a client, when they have a ton of hair, I really just look for where there are layers present, because if there's not a lot of layers, that means I can work heavily on the crown and then just connect through the tips of the ends. But if there is a lot of layers present, you want to make sure that you're taking almost pie-shaped sections so that you can follow the layers all the way through to the end. Because I want to keep her nice and rooted and natural as possible, I'm not really overly focused on blowing through all of this natural color, but I will take brick laid diagonal sections and try to keep this within like 8 panels if I can. So what we'll do is we'll just look at the bottom half of her back crown and then the top half, and then we'll make some decisions as we work. I just want it to not be like light, 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 and then a little black piece hanging through the end. So I'm just gonna do the teeniest little tip out. So now we have 3 little tip outs that will connect everything. And so we're dropping down to the mid crown. And I think what would be really pretty is, because we put these panels in a little higher, I can drop in the last panel. Okay, and then we're gonna take pretty big sections and then just tip out through this last dense area of hair. Now that we're in our last couple sections, I'm excited to check and see how well her first money piece foils are lifting. And based on how well we see her lift, we'll determine our processing time. I expect to pull those foils out well before these last sections are done. We're gonna go ahead and let her process here. What I'm looking for is warm level 7 to start. So we're just going to expect to see that within the next 40 minutes. So we'll see you in the shampoo and tone. Here's Priya's raw lift. I am so excited because we have a couple different tones to work with, which is by design. You see the lighter, brighter tones were the panels that we set on top. I really wanted those to be nice and bright to kind of give us a different tone, and then build that warm, buttery balayage base within the rest of her ends. So I'm gonna apply 5 NUA to her hair from back to front, and the NUA stands for Natural Ultra Ash, which is going to be beautiful at balancing any overly warm tones in the hair. This is the whole bottom of her hair. And I'm gonna comb it through and then drop in the same tone, but in the next level up, which would be a 6 NUA at the tips. Okay, so for these front brighter pieces, I'm still going to have the 5 NUA shadow, and then I'm building that into an 8 NA. All right, so what I'm looking for is the softness of blend, and so we're just gonna watch her oxidize. This is going to take between 10 and 20 minutes to oxidize. And we're just gonna look for a soft balayage neutral blend. Here we styled her soft, beachy beach bum waves. To prep her hair, we took her dry with the blow dry spray. You guys, I love this. It is absolutely insane for adding shine, moisture, and cutting your blow dry time by 50%. So you know we had to fill her hair with blow dry spray. And to finish it off and add a little more moisture at the very end, we did the Luxe Shine Oil. This is so beautiful. When you pump it into your hand, it has like this beautiful shimmer that just translates into your final look. Let's talk about Priya's hair color. Look at how gorgeous and balanced her tones are. There's that underlining warmth to give us that balayage connection. And then we have these more mocha pieces around the face frame, which really give a nice added dimension to the overall design. A little recap on her formula. We did a shadow root of 5 NUA throughout her whole hair. And then from the back, moving towards the front, we brought that 5 NUA into a 6 NUA to give it a little ombre. And then in the front, we did that same shadow root, but then finished off these melty mocha pieces with an 8 NUA. She looks like she was on a tropical island, and we love it. If you love this tutorial and are so inspired, please like and subscribe to the Kenra YouTube channel. There's so many amazing artists on here, and I have my own playlist that you'll absolutely love that features so many techniques that you can do right away in your salon. You can follow me on Instagram at @low_Wheeler Davis. Okay, bye.